welcome back to CAFC, the Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. Thank you for coming back to us. I hope you're enjoying these. This is the fourth in the series of 10. What we're going to do after the fifth one is have a look at everyone's team, see what you're voting for, who do you like, who do you not like. It's been really interesting to see how different people have taken it. Some people have said it's got to be players they've seen. Some people have said, no, I'm just going for the legends. So yeah, it's been really interesting conversation so far, and we've got some very interesting guests coming up. Some of the YouTube Charlton Mafia, as I like to call them, coming up in the next sort of 5, and next week we've got a fantastic host of Charlton Live, Louis Mendes. So yeah, there's some great guys coming up. But today we've got one of the guests on Charlton Live. That's where I became aware of him, but also the owner of the River Ale House, and actually the pretty much the face of the Back to the Valley campaign, Joe Puddifoot. It was a fantastic conversation. We had it a few weeks before Christmas. We had a chat. So I mean, things were looking a little bit brighter then than they are now. So there was we had a really good conversation actually, and a few of the players that Joe mentioned definitely get into mine. Some of them absolutely do not. So yeah, it was a really good chat. I hope you guys enjoy this. Comment below, let us know who your favourite players are, who's Joe picked well, who hasn't he picked well. And all those things are really important to help the channel develop. Like and subscribe, for the love of Christ, like and subscribe. I should have been asking that from the beginning apparently, but yeah, give it a little click down there. Really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Cheers. And yeah, give us your comments. I've got an ambition for this channel to do a live show. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. And I've got a dream guest that I'd love to get on, but let me know who your favorite guest would be. But now it's time for the one and only Mr. Joe Puddifoot. Hope you guys enjoy. Oh, and the other thing, I forgot to ask Joe who his current player would be that gets into his fantasy 11 in the pod. His choice was George Dobson for one of the centre mids. I don't want to give you too many hints, but it was the Irish one. So yeah, give us a shout, give us a like, give us a subscribe, get in touch. And this is the wonderful Mr. Joe Puddifoot. Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome to the Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Cup, CAFC. We're doing it, and this is the safe space where it's okay to be a Charlton fan. You can lock the doors, just focus on this for an hour and a half. This is where the good stuff is. None of the oh, we've got a replay against Cray. Oh, we've just draw against bloody Portsmouth away and we've celebrated like we're winning a cup. No, this is fine. We're fine here. We've got retro shirts. We've got a fantastic fans. We've had some commentators. We've had some fans. We've had none more so than today. I always ask how people get into Charlton, but this is possibly the youngest ever supporter we've had on in terms of when they joined their first game. I don't think you could have been cradle snatched any earlier than this guy. He's also part of the Charlton Live team and owner of the fantastic local pub, the River Ale House. Welcome, Mr. Joe Puddifoot. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, no, very good. Very pleased to be here. Bloody nervous, I'll be honest, because people like to have a bit of an opinion on other people's football opinions. So we'll see what sort of hiding I put myself in for here. But I'm fairly confident that the team will be all right.
I mean, you look at it, and you've got some of the best players that have ever played for the club, and also some of the shortest terms that we've had any player at all. I mean, some of these appearance figures are unbelievably low, but that is just how you interpret it, and you've got to appreciate that.
Yeah, no, you have, and to be fair, like this is my 30th season now, like being a season ticket holder, but there's a lot of different phases the club has been through in that time. So yeah, trying to find a team that sort of makes sense is very difficult with the number of different players that we've had coming in, and especially in the last few years, to be honest. If you want short tenures, there's a number of people that made 1 or 2 appearances, I'm sure, that we could have had in there maybe for the worst 11s, but that's not the one we're doing today.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be series 2. I think we're going to do worst 11. We could do a worst 11 managers and the best looking 11. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. Joe, you went to your first game when you were 11 weeks old. How do you feel about that? Do you blame your parents for that? Do you feel like they've kind of given you this sort of this? I don't want to say. I'm trying not to say the word cancer, but this thing that's affected your life
possibly negatively for the last 10 or so years. How upset with them are you?
Not at all, to be honest. I had no chance. Let's be honest. So 11 weeks old, Selhurst as well. So my first game wasn't even at the Valley. That doesn't particularly help. But Dad was doing a little bit of work with the club at the time. Somehow rankled himself a corporate box at Selhurst, I think, because they couldn't give them away. And therefore it was like, well, we've got a box, might as well take the lad. So I went along at 11 weeks old. But my dad grew up in Prentice Court, just down the side of the Oak. His bedroom window overlooked the pub garden of the Oak, so he could see the ground really from his bedroom. And when he used to come home from school, his mum, my grandma, used to wash the kits. So he used to walk in and look out in the garden, and there'd be, all the shirts and the shorts and the socks hung out on the line from the players. So there was absolutely no chance of me getting away with it. But it's character building being a Charlton fan. I've always said, if you want to learn to be resilient, if you want to understand how to come over take a good knock and bounce back, and to grab disappointment from the jaws of victory and learn what that feels, then being a Charlton fan is a great way to raise your child. And let's be honest, anything else that he ever got me as a gift was always going to be great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he set the bar really low, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean, that's fascinating though. Do you like, in terms of like living, how different was the club then? Because obviously now we're kind of, the last couple of years have been all obviously dreadful, but and in terms of the size of the club versus how much money we've had and bad ownership, it sounds like in your dad's days it was one run on a bit of a shoestring, but there's a lot of mucking in. I mean, to think that the lady over the road was washing the kits, I mean, that must give you an incredible sense of commitment to the club, and like, of course your family's going to have a massive draw in terms of part to it. How different does he say those days were in comparison to now?
Oh, I mean, massively different. So Hornfair Park, again down by the Oak, there's a number of stories that Dad's got of him and his mates having a kickabout down there, and all of a sudden Charlton players turn up and they've got a ball, obviously, that they're playing around with, and they sort of stroll over and join in the kickabout using 2 trees as a goal. And so getting involved with the kids in the local area. So obviously it's massively changed now. I mean, if Alfie May did that, I think we'd all be wanting him strung up for risking his hamstrings on a kickabout with some kids, when they're so important to us. But they were everyday heroes back in the day, weren't they, footballers? And the times have changed, but they're still heroes to man and boy. Still got a massively important role. But when you're looking at, Dad is a bit of a geek, and that probably is no surprise listening to me. He would go to the games and spend the time sort of noting down the minutes of the goals, where they were scored from, who scored them, both for and against, in a little notebook that he just carry around with him. I think it was Eddie Fermani was the manager at the time when he was doing that and found out about it, and so got obviously his mum, my grandma, to drop the book in. And then it disappeared into the annals of Charlton's management team. And whether they used it, whether they didn't, we don't 100% know. But it was that kind of accessible back in the day. Whereas football now isn't that world, and it will never be that world again. But for what you lose in terms of all the spit and sawdust and the sort of hearty, sort of local vibes you get, I suppose, in community programs and outreach, and the ability to invest in local communities in a way that you never would have had back in the day because the money wasn't around. So it's a very different world. I'm not sure that every change has been for the better, but ultimately the club has come through a lot of hardships and a lot of difficult times. It's still here, and it's got a real committed fan base, of which you've got people like myself who are now 3rd generation, don't really have a choice. And my son, I found out that, my partner's pregnant. I found out that we were having a boy, and the scan was all good, and that was fantastic. And that was the week the season tickets came out. So he's actually been a season ticket holder since he was minus 22 weeks, which is another great story, by the way, because the ticket office asked me for proof of age. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't get anything until he's born. I can send you a scan. yeah, so it's like, is that enough? And they were like, that's not, no, we don't have a box for that on the form. We need a birth certificate. So luckily they sort of took that for gospel. And so it's been sent in. So currently he actually doesn't have a registered date of birth with the club, and I probably need to drop the birth certificate down. But he had no job. I mean, I was given 11 weeks and he got 33 less than me. Yeah. So I don't know where it's going to go, but short of buying some speculative season tickets now for grandchildren, I'm not sure how much more committed we can make the next generation be.
Yeah, you can't really chuck it in when they're consummating, can you? You have to kind of focus on at least when you've got the 12-week scan.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing would put me off more than someone throwing in a season ticket while we're trying to have our next shot. Let's not go into that. That's absolutely fine. There is a serious point I want to make to you, because one of your fantastic stories is that you were used as a bit of a poster boy for the Back to the Valley campaign. I'm interested in that, but what I want to know is, because I kind of fell out of love with Charlton from about basically when Roland took over. I was off at uni, and it was very easy for me to not be too involved. But when he split the club from the ground, and that's something that your dad was so part of this huge community that have come together to get that back. What was the feeling in the house like? Is that kind of it feels like the ultimate kind of destruction of the last couple of years, and it seemed like we were completely unable to do anything about it, and it seems to having a bigger and bigger effect on the club now. So yeah, tell me about like that sort of experience of doing the Back to the Valley, but also when Roland split, did everyone know about it, and was there any kind of like, let's get the band back together and stop it happening, or I know there was the protest afterwards, but it seemed like it just kind of passed everyone by.
I think that. So I mean, this all sort of happened in a phase of life the first time round where I was a bit too young to know. All I know is that I was pushed round in a pram with posters and rosettes and all these different bits while campaigning was happening. So I like to think that I did my bit by just sort of laying there as a sort of a mobile billboard. But obviously, Dad, from what he was doing, he's still got copies of the the mini versions of the posters that people put in windows, and I've got those framed, hidden away for safekeeping. Unfortunately, they will get out, but only when I can 100% guarantee that the missus won't try and get rid of them. So I need Harry to be a bit older and be on Team Charlton as a diehard for that to happen. But yeah, we went through that, and it, I look back through the family pictures of when my sort of real childhood, and it's pictures of Dad down at the valley, with a fork and a shovel, helping clean the stands up and trying to get the ground back into some sort of reputable state, with a friend of his called John Hutley, who still does some stuff for the club to this day. And so you sort of come in through that period. And I remember being in primary school, and we were wearing the first Charlton kit that I remember getting in, and getting all the stick from the kids who supported the big teams, and being very proudly saying, "Oh, I support my local team. I don't know about you." So that proper propaganda, getting right at the root. So that's that trajectory. Then from then to, I remember saying to Dad when I was really young, why aren't we a big club? When will we be a big club? Just wanting those kind of occasions. And you had the years where you were trying to get there, and obviously then we had the Wembley playoff, which is a very vivid memory of mine still. And getting home from that, and Dad saying, now we are a big club. We've done it now. We're finally on that pedestal. So you go through that journey, and you always have that sort of constant rise, pretty much until 2008, when it all goes completely pear-shaped, and has been fairly pear-shaped ever since. So when the club got separated from the ground, I actually wasn't that worried about it per se at the time, because I just wanted rid of Roland, and I thought there was a lot of money behind it, and I was okay with it being a short-term thing to get the window done and a positive window. But then when the window was going a bit pear-shaped, the alarm bell started to ring. And then obviously now we're 4 years or however many years down the line, and you look back and you think, that was just a madness. And it's such a shame that a rich bloke can sell everything off for £1, apart from the assets, to a bloke with nothing to his name, And obviously, if the club goes under, he's got everything to gain because he can do then a bit more what he likes with all the assets.
Yeah.
So it's horrendous. There needs to be more protection for clubs because these are generational assets for the community, and they provide a lot of value. The river would not be as successful as it is without the football trade. It would still turn a profit, but it wouldn't be the business that it is without that crowd. And there's so many of those people that come in during the week as well that found us through the football, that away fans that get the opportunity to come in and try at South East London version of a microclub, all that kind of cultural sort of swirling pool, it just dies if the football clubs aren't there. And it is outside the Premier League where that is the real strength. And we're in a precarious situation. I don't think these owners have any interest in reuniting, I'll be honest, but eventually someone is going to have to step up to the plate, or a Charlton fan's going to have to win the 139 euro millions and bequeath it back to the club in some form or other. But even then, which owners do you trust to have the assets? As it happens, I'm happier with Roland having them than the idea of Southall having got his hands on them. So although it's dreadful, I think it's better than it could have been in a really weird, sadistic kind of way. But hopefully it's all back under one roof. And, when those campaigns come back around and when we're fighting for our lives to stay in the valley, then I'll be certainly looking forward to getting or being part of that band and not just the kid being pushed around in a pram, but maybe doing some of the pushing this time. So yeah, it's a club we all love. And we all want it to go in one direction, and reuniting the two, I think, is an important part of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I've fucked it completely there by asking you a really genuine question about what we're like today, and promising that this is going to be a safe space. And actually, I'm more depressed now than I was when we started. That's completely my fault. I take responsibility for that.
Everyone says that when they talk to me. They're more depressed than when they start. So we're just true to form there.
Yeah, that's it. We'll bounce back. We're Charlton. We'll bounce back. It's absolutely fine. All right. Well, look, I want to talk to you about your team, and from experience, if we don't start soon, we're going to be here all night. What were you think? Let's talk about the formation. What were you thinking about the formation? Were you thinking about this team playing a game, or were you thinking, fuck it, I just want to get all the strikers on the pitch? Because that's how it looks.
No, I didn't want to get all the strikers on the pitch.
Right.
I wanted two up front.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I started there, and I was like, right, I've got two strikers I definitely want in my team.
Yeah.
And then I had enough. I had too many midfielders to play two up front, and I didn't really want to play a 4-3-3 and then play one of the strikers in a weird position. So I just came to the conclusion that I was just going to be done with the fullbacks. And speaking as someone that when I did play football at school was generally at fullback, I think it's one of the less glamorous positions, and short of Powley, who obviously we love, and Luke Young and Mills. We've had some good fullbacks in our time, but I don't think any of the fullbacks are good enough to warrant dropping anybody else in this team. And I think if you go with the three at the back with a really solid back three, then you can just kind of say, well, we're just going to have some fun after that. And to be fair, I'm not going to get pumped 11-0 because we're not going to manage to get all these players back together to play a game, I don't think. If that happens at the end, by the way, if that's a secret and you've got some magic budget and we're going to put this team together, then I might need to change it. But as it's not actually going to play a game and it's just on paper, it looks sensational on paper.
I'm looking at a team. I reckon there's a couple here that could do with the good press, to be honest with you. But and there's a couple that I think would struggle to get out of bed. But it's a great team. Do you want to? Should we start off? Let's go with your goalkeeper. Now you've got three players that have been in everyone's team so far, and three players that they're making their debut appearance. Do you want to start with your goalkeeper, Joe? Who have you gone for?
Yeah. So I'll get some honourable mentions because Dino. I love Dino. And there's nothing better than thinking back to all those times that we used to sadistically cheer when he pumped it into the east or west stand for absolutely no reason. And get
it out. Get it out. I'd rather. I'm not going into it again. Rather him get it out than fucking letting it through.
But not from a goal kick. He was famous for doing it from goal kicks. I mean, he's under no pressure, and he's got the entire bloody pitch to win.
Get it up the pitch, mate. Get it up the pitch. That's all I care about.
what I will say about Dino is right at the end of his Charlton career, he started chipping it over strikers, and I've never had more anxiety as a Charlton fan than when Dino was doing that. So that tells you all you need to know about Kylie. So he gets an honourable mention, but for me, it's got to be Pope.
That's showing.
And Pope, I think looking at Pope, he's a great shot stopper. He had this real horrible knack at Charlton of spilling balls that bounced in front of him, and he'd bend down and they'd bounce back off his chest right into the 6-yard box, and someone would tap it in. But from the moment I sort of saw him stepping into the team, I knew he had some potential to go somewhere. And I've got always a bit more of a soft spot for the players that start Charlton and go on to do great things. And he's a solid player. And where Dino was really poor was coming off his line, a great shot stopper. I think in the modern game, if we're going for the game as it is now, I need a keeper that can come off and command that box a little bit more as well. So it's got to be Popey for me.
I mean, you're right. We've had some incredible goalkeepers. Kylie's the one that sticks in the memory. Carson as well went on to play for England. Pope's had 10 England appearances already. What I couldn't believe is he only ever played 33 times for us. I mean, in terms of a season, he didn't even make it through a whole season. But what's amazing is he went out on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loan spells while he was with us. And we sold him for 1.3 million. And obviously we got him from Bury, I think, for not a lot of money at all. It feels like he's one of the players we played the game with. Like in terms of getting a young quality player and bringing him through and then selling him on for a decent amount of money. I'm hoping, I don't know the ins and outs, but I'm sure we're still on some sort of resale fee. That's amazing. I mean, in terms of business, that's a great way of doing it.
It's a great way of doing it. And, but he didn't play that many games for us, but he came on a long way in that time. And I think that there's, those loan spells where especially young keepers, like you see him going out and you just want to give him a chance. Like when Ash was coming through, I was desperate for him to just get a bit of an opportunity to show what he had. And, Beadle that went off to Brighton, I think, as well. And you're watching some of the stuff that was happening youth level, and you're thinking, there's another one that could be coming through the ranks. So the fact that he came through and he got his start here, and not through our academy, fair enough, but we took the punt on him. We gave him that exposure, and he's gone on to have a sensational career. And I think he would look back and very fondly at Charlton in terms of the start that he was given. And I don't remember too many people being too critical. Like I mentioned the shots that bounced off him, bouncing right in front of him. And that happened a few times. I still don't remember him getting an awful lot of stick. I think we sort of took him in as one of our own. And it's great to see him playing, at England level, and right at the top of the Premier League now. He's really established himself in the game. And it's fantastic to know that we can be that launch pad for players, regardless whether they come through our academy all the way through, or if they join us when they're, 15, 16, 17, we can give people that opportunity to go and make a career by giving youth a chance. Yeah,
I mean, Dylan Phillips is another one, isn't he? In terms of most recent players that have come through academy. I mean, I remember him when I can't remember the other keeper, the first team keeper. It wasn't.
We had Green as well, but
that's it. Yeah, and he got injured, and everyone was like a bit worried about Phillips coming in. He just really took over and made that spot his own, and we gave him that platform to do it, and he went on. I don't think he's playing as regularly now, but in terms of goalkeepers, when you look at Rob Elliott, Darren Randolph, there's an incredible amount of players that Charlton have been able to give a platform to. Nicky Weaver, the other side of it, maybe. But in terms of we've got a good lot of players there that have come through Charlton really well. And I think I'm not saying that was Roland doing things well, because I don't know what he did with the money. But that just seemed like good business in terms of if you can move someone on for 1.3 million, it costs you nothing. Fair enough. So,
it's something that I don't actually think that we do enough of as a club. There's
Burstow's the only other one I can think of recently.
Yeah, but and Aribo, we picked him up when he was 16 or so. But there's certainly players that we know that there's players that have been playing in and around our squad who are going to go on to be worth a fair chunk more than they are today. And there's going to be if you went and spoke to 100 League Two fans, you'd probably get a short list of half a dozen players that are youngsters that have got something that you would be worth taking a punt on it. And those spectacular punts, or speculative punts, sorry, where you're just sort of spending a couple of $100,000 or 50 grand and large sell-on fees, I think they're worth doing just to try and keep a little bit of the money coming through, and getting young players that are good quality, that are helping maybe keep some of our academy players that we've got hopes for in the academy, or supplementing them and giving them some better players to play alongside are good. And we've all had those players in the different areas that have come in for not a lot, that have gone on to be worth an absolute fortune, and he is one of them. It's just, I thought at the time that the fee was a bit cheap on him, but then I suppose there was a lot of people that were very happy with getting 1.3 million for him.
It's a goalkeeper, isn't it? I mean, I think he only went. I haven't got it to hand the price he went for to Newcastle, but it wasn't excessive. But yeah, it's a goalkeeper, isn't it? They're never going to go for as much. No, great shout, Nick Pope. Hasn't been mentioned before, and no, I think in terms of quality, you're seeing it now. Because I know at the time there was a few people that still, like you said, thought he flapped about a bit. Your back three's pretty much invincible. Who do you want to go with first?
We'll work right to left, and this is where we're going back to the memories of youth with Richard Rufus. He is sensationally quick. He was iconic, I think, for me at the time, of just being a player that you could rely on every single week. I remember him getting injured. I think it was away at Ipswich, if memory serves me right, when he picked up that injury, and I think got sent off at the same time. And I remember at the time thinking, "Oh, that is a bad one for Rich Rufus to be down like that." But the Wembley goal in itself deserves.
Perez has come in the crowd and is locked in, and Richard Rufus has scored his first ever goal for Charlton, and it's 3-3. Incredible.
I think probably Bowers sort of overshadows that now a little bit because it was a last second. But I think there's an added shine of the fact that was his first ever goal, and to bring us back level in a game where we were looking dead and buried, and Clive had already done his magic a number of times, and you're just not. Brownie said Brownie knew that he could make a mistake, and Rufus was quick enough to recover it. And I think if you're going to go with the back three, you've got to have one of your centre backs that's absolutely rapid. He's had a wobble since he's left Charlton in terms of his future career, which is going to gloss completely over that and leave him as a footballing hero status. And sod the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Voted the greatest ever defender for Charlton. 288 appearances. He scored 12 goals. So he scored 12 goals from the playoff final. That's amazing to me, because I remember him playing a bit after the playoff final, but I don't remember him going for years and years and years. I remember him more in the build up to it, if you know what I mean. I think he made it. I don't think he played. Well, he must have done. I mean, I don't know how many games he played before, but for me, he was more relevant sort of in the 90s rather than in the 2000s. But maybe that's just a trick of the memory.
Yeah, I mean, how many of those are own goals? I suppose to be the question. But he was one of those names where you just wanted to see his name on the team sheet every single week. You knew you had an absolute unit at the back there that could, head the ball, physically was nice and strong, and still had the ability to keep up with the quickest strikers in the league. So he's one of those players that you'll always have an affinity with, because they were the name in the team when you were coming through. And there's a couple of others from that era who are going to get themselves in and around the squad today.
Well, I was wondering when I set this up whether or not people would, because for me, I would pretty much pick that playoff final team, regardless of having a couple here and there. But that's the team I grew up with, so it kind of builds from that age of being maybe 9 and 10. That's when you really, really fall in love with players. And Richard Rufus was kind of the one that, for me, he's the one that I wanted to emulate. I played centre back. I couldn't slide tackle like him. I wasn't anywhere near as quick. I couldn't head the ball, but I would imagine myself as him. I looked more like one of your other defenders than Richard Rufus. But in terms of he emulated everything, and he was so solid. All right, you have got a bit of a mixture. Who's your next? Who are you going for next?
Well, yeah, I've got. They've all got their own traits. And George Costa is
Reinforcements were needed, so Portuguese international defender George Costa from Porto and Chris Bart Williams from Nottingham Forest were recruited until the end of the season.
And Bart Williams,
Now then, it's a Charlton debut.
He was just
for the Portuguese international George Costa. This has come off. Costa pulled a tag. Nearly 50 caps across the Portugal. He's on loan from Porto.
Beat a player like that. It's such a shame he only had one season. I'd love to have had him for.
And here's
years
Anderson
and
with the
years
run
and years
from
to do
deep.
exactly that.
Excellent recovery tackle by George Costa.
He's just the way he used to hug people as well. Like it was comical, the fact that he seemed to get away with GBH every single week, but had this way of getting away, and he'd sort of be running directly behind someone, grab them round just as they were about to go. He'd let go of them, put his arms back up, and then they would like have to carry on running. He'd just constantly be giving them a little cuddle the whole way down the pitch and getting away with it. There was one great one where he fell over as a striker was breaking through, and there was absolutely no intention to go for the ball. He basically dove and took the player out, and then just got up and was like fuming at the player for having tripped him and won the free kick. And if the referee had had his eyes open, he would have been sent off easily. But yeah, I just can't not get him in the team. And he's another cameo. What is it, one season?
24 appearances.
Yeah,
not your lowest by any means. And again, he's one that's got into everyone's team. But the difference between him and Pope and one of your others that has made very low appearances is I still see him when I blink. Like he's had such an impact on Charlton in terms of the story about how we got him, the impact he had on the team, having the most famous name across the back line, Young Fish Costa Fortune, like it all really jumps out. And I agree with you. Like it's amazing that we got him, but I've said it in previous episode. It just shows what having a Premier League club in London can do, because you can attract these players. I mean, the story goes is that he wasn't getting into his club team. He needed to play to get into the World Cup team. So he just basically put a finger on the map, went, all right, London's a decent city. I'm going to play there. Let's go there. I don't think we paid him a lot of money. But I think the difference with him and some of the other loans we had, and you see it with Conor Gallagher, a couple of others, he came in and he really wanted to make an impact. He didn't do anything by halves. He didn't think, oh, I don't want to get injured. Like the way that guy threw himself about was incredible. More so than a lot of other players we've had playing in that same position since and before. I just think in terms of leading by example and probably a massive language barrier, probably issues with trying to get over the philosophy of football. It doesn't fucking matter. If you can play a position, you can play it, and you can do it like he did.
Yeah, and he's worth two defenders for me. He was that good, and it's that intellect that he had. It was just always in the right place, always that just diving in at the right moment, always the tackle just perfectly timed. And at the time when he was here and he was only here on loan, I was still too young really to really understand it. I think in terms of the fact that he was just going to go back and that was just going to be it. But I think a few years later on, he would have been a lone player that I'd have fallen in love with and been devastated on the last day that he definitely wasn't going to come back. Because I was in that age where it's like, oh, of course, everyone wants to play for Charlton. Who doesn't want to play for Charlton? even if you're Beckham at Man U, secretly you wouldn't have minded a couple of seasons at Charlton. So he's and also I think it was that era of Charlton where we really started to make a bit of a name for ourselves outside. I mean, not enough that Costa knew who we were. He just signed on the dotted line and turned up and took a bit of a punt. But we were starting to make a bit of a name for ourselves, and we're getting these players that came in with standards, and they sort of almost brought everybody else with them in that kind of way. I went, no, I'm here now. This is now the standard, because that's where I operate. So yeah, you've got his physicality and know-how and street smarts. So you've got Rufus's the rascal pace and ability to time a slide tackle recovering. And the only thing I'm missing is a footballing centre-back, which would be the third one.
Here we go. Who have you gone for?
So I've gone for Joe Gomez, not just because he shares my name, my first name, but because I just remember his debut. He's just quality, and he had everything. He could play the ball. He could play fullback. You knew that he was going to go on. And I said in his first season with us, I was like, "There's absolutely no way that he doesn't go on to play for England." I thought he actually had the ability to go on and captain and be a real leading light. It's a real shame that his injuries have happened as they have, but it's just another one of those players that's come through, and you just like they're on to bigger things. Like they're going to outgrow this club very, very quickly. But he was also, respectful in how we do it. Yeah, we didn't get enough money for him. No way do we get his value from his transfer. But he probably could have left long before. He probably had people sniffing around him for ages. He stayed around and came through properly, and then went on to bigger and better things. But what a quality player!
I never saw him in the Charlton shirt. I've only ever seen the clips. I wasn't there when I wasn't in the stadium when he was playing. You said it all then. He just, watching the clips, he just seemed to win everything in the air. He always seemed to know where the ball was going, and he seemed to be able to play the ball perfectly. What was it like in his debut? Was it like an alien had landed and like, oh fuck, we've got an actual football player here. What do we do with him?
It sort of, he looked mature. It was just bizarre in the way that he sort of strolled onto the pitch. He just looked like older and wiser than everyone playing around him. He was just still a kid. It was like, I watched Shelby actually for playing for under 18s, I think, when he was 15. And him on the pitch, he looked like the oldest player on the pitch. He looked like he was miles ahead of everybody else. And you were going, he's 15. He shouldn't be this. He shouldn't be this good. And it was very much Gomez doing that for me at the full level. And he's as these players come through, there are players that you're disappointed to see go. You just knew that he had outgrown the club, and I was so pleased that he got a good move for him and one that seemed like was going to be the way to go. I mean, secretly, it would have been nice if he'd have gone to a lower Prem team for a couple of seasons and moved on for massive money, and we'd have got the cash in the bank. But probably by then, whoever the owner was just going to keep it in their pocket anyway. So I'm not that upset about it anymore. But
we got 4.9 million for him from Liverpool. He only played 21 times for us in terms of 21 appearances. He's already played 118 times for Liverpool, and he's got 11 England caps. I mean, he's 26. That seems like a hell of a career already. Do you think that because obviously he came back into the Liverpool side when they started to go through their wobble. Like after his injury, it seemed like he came back into a bit of a Van Dijk was having a terrible season. Obviously, Liverpool haven't looked the same team since. Do you think he stays at Liverpool, or do you reckon he's got another move in him?
I think he'll probably end up. I think he'll probably be one of those players that will leave Liverpool and drop down a level in terms of Premier League clubs. Hopefully, he doesn't fall into the abyss of Palace, but drops down to maybe even a Brighton, for instance, who I know they're right at the top at the minute, but they're not of that pinnacle level, if that makes sense, and would then just revitalise his career and be worth an absolute fortune later on, potentially. I think he's got that in him, but his problem has always been that injury record, and we've had plenty of players with injury records, so it's probably about fair that we produced one that then went on and was an absolute liability somewhere else rather than just being constantly injured for us. But there's certain players, aren't there, that when you see them, you just say, yeah, they go. And Conser was the same. When we saw him come through, we were like, he's not quite Gomez, but he's going to go the same way. He's going to get right away to the top, probably get into the England setup. I mentioned Shelby. He saw him. You were like, yeah, he's going places. Lookman is another player that just as soon as you saw him, you knew they were of a standard. And Raksaki isn't ours, but again, another player that just they come in and you're just like, yeah, there's something there that is above the level where we can take that player to at this time. Unfortunately, it would be nice to be in the Premier League and be able to be the people buying those players. But for now, we have to watch them go and then enjoy their careers when they're at the top. But I think adds balance in the three because he can play football. So the other two can win it, and then they just pass it to him, and then he does something magic with it. And then coming down the other end, he's also good enough in defence, I think, to play on the left of a three on his weaker side as well. So just about, I think, managed to square it away as a three that sounds nice and strong. Yeah,
I mean, you've got two players there that can really get around, and Costa, who will just pretty much rugby tackle people. I mean, it seems pretty solid to me. 21 appearances. That's the lowest you've got in there in terms of playing for Charlton. But I think your reasons are pretty solid. I mean, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it, to see this team together? I'd love to see that back three together. I mean, Rufus needs to get out the issues he's got first of all, but we won't talk about that. Right, moving on to midfield. You've sort of gone 3 and then 2. Is that right?
Yeah, it's sort of a 3-5-2, but there's two boys that are going to sit, but they can both push on. So it's sort of two sort of Swiss Army knife midfielders, I would sort of describe them as. Nice. And then we'll get over the more controversial one first, and then we can eulogise about the other one second. So we'll start with Scott Parker.
Right. I found this video today. I think it was in the Charlton Museum on YouTube. Pay very close attention. This is a talking one, so you'll have to watch it. Pay very close attention to the voice and the hair. Okay, they're amazing.
Scott Parker has the world at his feet, or so said those familiar with his ball skills. And that's a lot of people. Remember this? That well-known burger chain commercial showed that even at the tender age of 13, he was no common or garden player. Now he's 17 and out to prove he's ready for the Premiership with newly promoted Charlton. But the Wonder Kid image still takes some living down.
I can't believe people still remember it, to be fair, do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, 6 years ago now, it's so old, you know, and at the time I got untold and I was only young still, I was about 13 and it was a lot to handle, to be fair, do you know, and...
That voice.
The thing that jumps out of me is that the 17-year-old thought he was 13 6 years ago. That's the first thing that jumped out to my attention. It's taken me a long time to forgive him because I was fairly young and it was the end of transfer window, and Dad came into my room and told me when I was genuinely drifting off to sleep that Scott Parker had gone. He sort of given me a bit of a nudge that this might be happening, but he told me just as I was drifting off to sleep. Ever the man to depress a boy right at the last little moment, the last little bit of joy that I had that we'd kept Parker, and he was like, "No, I'm going to ruin the window for you tonight." And you knew when he did that our season was effectively over, whereas it probably was going to be a bit of an interesting run-in with him still there, because we couldn't replace it. It was too late in the day. But what a player in his time at Charlton, and he showed his class when he came back, because he always put one in the top bin from a mile away. And I remember the one celebration, he ran all the way down the other end of the pitch, and that made my blood boil even more. And I was at Chelsea when they unveiled him, and that made my blood boil even more. So it's taken me a long time to calm down, but I'm still not sure if he came back as a manager. I'm still not sure I'd be able to cope with that. But you know what I will say is that if we're going to really talk about Charlton teams of the various eras and players that should get in there, then he has got to be up there. And he never fulfilled his potential by going to Chelsea. I think that was the wrong move for him career-wise. Probably the fantastic move financially, but probably wrong move career-wise. And it would have been nice to see him finish off the season and then get a move to a club that genuinely wanted him, because Ranieri was sacked within about 48 hours of him arriving, wasn't he? So he never really got the opportunity to embed his place in that Chelsea team, like many of the other players they signed in that era. But I'm
glad that you've calmed down. I'm still fuming, and you're the third person to pick him. It's have that 100% record, and if anything, doing this has made me more angry of him. The thing that I get so angry about is that he's everything you said. Homegrown talent. He worked like an absolute bulldog. Like, he was everywhere, and yet he had this amazing technique to hit the ball from anywhere. I remember 2 goals he scored against Southampton. We lost 3-2. Best goals I've ever seen in a live football game. He was insanely good, and yet we had Di Canio. We had such a good team. We were fourth. Like everything was riding on that. And it's like, do you want to do something, or do you want to go and sit on a fucking bench for the rest of your career? I think he played something like, he got 15 appearances for Chelsea. 15. It boggles my mind. How can you not see that coming from a fucking mile off? That you got Lampard, you got Joe Cole. I know I need to calm down. I know I do, but like before he went, he was sort of tipped for England. He was a massive fish in a tiny pond. And I think most people ranked him on the same level as Lampard. And Joe Cole was a little bit behind him, better technically, but not as good of an all-round midfielder. And then he goes to Chelsea and he just sits on the bench. 15 appearances. Yeah. Do you know the best thing I found out today? He got sacked after 12 games at Bruges when he went there as manager. Fuck Parker. Sorry.
But he's still a quality player.
I believe I pick him. I'm 100% picking him. 100%.
But he's it is what it is. He'll be a bit of a cult villain for a while, but he's also a cult hero. And you know, he left halfway through a season, but he didn't do a Lyle Taylor and leave us in a lurch right on the precipice of relegation. Yes, we didn't get Europe. Yes, we probably would have gone on to achieve something like that if he'd have stayed around. But you can't knock what he did while he was here in a Charlton shirt. And he's, you know, I remember just watching him and just, you know, always when you saw his name again, like Rivers, you saw his name on a team sheet, you were comfortable that you had what you needed. And I think that without him, we wouldn't have been able to enjoy one of the other players that I've got in my team, because you would not have been able to find another midfielder that would have made him sing in the way that he did. And so many of those big games that we've had over the years, and, you know, the big wins in the Premier League, where we took a scalp here, we took a scalp there. He was part and parcel of destroying those teams. So with him comes all of the highs, and he deserves his credit for it. And I think having him sitting in front of that back three, he can go with abandon when he wants to, especially with his mate alongside him. But if we're backs against the wall, then you know you've got a little terrier snapping at the heels of anyone that's sort of trying to get in and around the defence, and making sure that we're looking nice and solid. Because, I mean, the 5 players in front of him aren't helping.
I haven't seen a player like him since until Gallagher. I think Gallagher's the only player I've seen that had that all-round ability, that ability to be a terrier, but also have that brilliant technique at the end. And Gallagher may even be a little bit behind him. I know he's doing amazing stuff now, but I do think it's like, imagine if he'd stayed. Imagine what would happen if we had got in top 4. Would we have then spent a load more money and built on Di Canio and Ben and like replenished that squad? Would Kirbishley then have stayed on a bit longer? It's a real sliding doors moment. But you're right. Thank you for bringing my this all back down to earth a little bit. I appreciate it. I've had a bit of chance to calm down. Who's playing next to him, Joe?
Well, because I've picked the villain, I've got to pick a real proper cult hero next to him, haven't I, to balance it out. It's all about balance. So Kinsella is lining up.
Kinsella always gives the impression of being here, being there, and being everywhere. 1 minute on his own goal line, the next making vital tackles, then showing some superb vision. And probably finishing off a move as well. He didn't win his first cap for the Republic.
Yeah, I mean, again, another player that had it all. There's so many central midfielders that could have stood a chance of getting into that team, and Holland definitely is up there, I think. But yeah, it's something about Kinsella. Just, you know, I remember I watched Ireland play football because I wanted to watch Kinsella. Yeah. Which is sort of that just the fact that he had that effect on me as a kid. It's like, why do I care? I don't care if Ireland do well. Like cheering them on to try and get through to a final so Kinsella could go and actually play football at the highest level. And like, what am I doing? Like, but he had that way, didn't he? And he was an absolute bar. I don't know what we paid for him, if we got him for free or we spent 100 million on him, but whatever we spent, he was a bargain for the value that we got over the years. And when you're looking back at that era, he's one of those people I think that embodied Charlton through and through. He was a calm, sensible individual that spoke well, held himself well. You imagine he's a model professional behind the scenes, and all of the success that we had was built on characters like that being in and around the squad and pushing everybody else to really sort of solidify where their standards are. So yeah, and again, another player that can sit and mix it, and another player that can find a little through ball, another player that can whack it in the top corner from miles away, or take a cheeky little free kick and put it in the bottom corner. So you really do have two players that you can literally say, one of you's got to stay, but the other one just can enjoy themselves, and they can have a little rest, and they can, you know, charge forward as and when they want to. And they've got enough football intelligence between them, I think, that you pretty much don't need a team talk. You just basically say, you two are doing that job. Make sure one of you's always there. Go and enjoy yourself. And they would go and do that for you.
100%. I think you were 100% right. He was a gentleman, wasn't he? And he embodied what you wanted Charlton to be. We bought him for 300k from Colchester, sold him to 1.15 to Villa, which sounds really low, but we sold him in, I think it was, he made 208 appearances and got 20 goals. In terms of a career, like he pretty much, that was the main chunk of it. He had 48 international caps with Ireland and scored 3 goals. I think we really did get the best out of him. He didn't go on to Villa and play thousands of games. He played, I think, 25 times, something like that, and then bounced around a little bit. And then obviously came back as reserve manager in 06-08. And I always wondered why that didn't work better, because in terms of quality and what he offered and being a real thinking footballer and understanding the club, I'm surprised he wasn't one of those that did go on to manage the club like Paoli and Bowyer did.
I think you've got to have... We're getting into manager talk now. I think with managers, you've got to have a mixture of skills. You've got to have one bloke that's a bit of an arsehole who holds everyone to account. You've got to have one bloke that's putting arms around shoulders. You've got to have a tactical thinker who's doing the work in terms of the shape and how you're going to play and understanding the opposition. You've got to have someone that's looking after set pieces and marking players on the edge of the box who are volleying in for fun at the minute, for instance. You've got to have all that skill set within. And at the time, it's a fairly established network above him, and they had all various skills that they were comfortable with. And do you rock the boat to bring someone through? And then we just went into, also you're a Premier League club, and you want a bit of experience, and I think the people at the top wanted to make a bit of a statement, and they did. Yeah. And the statement has worked out epically poorly for us over the years, but he will always be welcome back at Charlton. I'm surprised we don't see him more, to be honest. We see various former players turning up on Charlton TV and making occasional sort of waves around at half time, and he's one that certainly I'd like to see back at the Valley, and being shown some of the appreciation that he definitely would have built up and does deserve from that era of Charlton as a football club.
Yeah, I mean, he's assistant manager for some Irish team that I've not heard of before, Dudley or something like that. So I imagine that's why we haven't seen him as much. But 100%, you think that he'd be the perfect person to sit alongside Curbs and Brownie every now and again on Charlton TV. I'd love that. So they're your two sitting midfielders. You've got 3 in front of them. I mean, one of these is definitely a midfielder. The other two, who are you going for first?
We'll start on the right. We'll work right to left. So we'll start with Adam Mola-Lookman. Right. I mean, we've already mentioned him. I mean, he played up front for us, didn't he? But he also played in the right, scored an absolute ton of goals, and went on to Everton. I remember watching him come on as a substitute and scoring that last-minute goal to seal the win for them. And you just knew as soon as you saw him that there was a bundle of talent there, and he had, ability that not everybody else around him could claim. And he's got goals in him. He's got a trick in him. He's a bit more direct, and that provides a different sort of style of player to what I've got on the other side, I think. Yeah. So nice little bit of balance. I don't think he's going to be putting too many crosses in, but I think that there'll be plenty of balls bouncing back off of posts or keepers or deflecting off of defenders, but certain cultured individuals might be able to snaffle up and put in the back of the net for us. So and look, Jez, honourable mention out there, Romadal, just for pace and pace alone. You know, I remember us signing him. I was outside the post office in next to the just up down the road by the station, essentially the post office by Charlton station, when the rumours came out that we'd signed Romadal. It was a sunny day, and I was thinking, oh, this is a different. Again, we're moving on. This is a new era. You know, the best Danish midfielder or whoever he was at the time is coming across, and you're thinking, you know, this is exciting kind of stuff. But for me, Lookman has the pace, but he also has the end product, and he's not going to over a tackle and end up on too good, too bad like Dennis did. I think he's got a little bit of everything, and that's why he's in there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great shout. Again, low appearances, 45 appearances, 10 goals. We sold him to Everton for a total fee of 11 million. And this is where I do think as much stick as I give Parker for going to Chelsea and going too big so soon, he went to Everton, and you'd think that Everton's kind of that right level of club where he's going to get time, he's going to get game time. He's not going to be necessarily, he's obviously not the biggest player in the team, but he's not going to be the lowest. And it just didn't really work out. At the moment, he's playing for Atlanta in the Italian league, which is, I think they're 11th or something like that. It's not like he's gone into the abyss, but it definitely feels like he could have. I'm not saying if he'd stayed longer or he should have jumped up higher, but he just seems to have maybe got lost a little bit in that move. It'd be great to see him back in the Premier League, right, and see what he's actually still got.
Yeah, I mean, but look, when you're being offered the money that we were offered for Lookman and the position we were in as a club, I don't think he can turn it down, unfortunately. So, yeah, Everton was a club that probably was going to get a bit more of an opportunity at. It would, to be honest, if it was now, and you had a club like Brighton that was in the Premier League who was looking at these sort of rogue players that people haven't necessarily picked up on their radar, then he could have maybe gone on to have a slightly different career to one he's had. But I mean, I don't think he would regret it. I think he's played in Germany, Italy, he's played in the Prem. He's had a wealth of experience at a number of different clubs, probably quite a nice career. And you know, he's just one of those players that you came through and you was like, there's some talent there. And he's not an out and out right winger, but I think he has enough about him that he could play out there. And Goodmanson would have been, you know, potentially another one. But that pace, I think, just sets him apart a little bit from some of the others because he has the pace and the trickery and the shot. So sort of a nice all rounder. Good shout.
Last man in midfield.
No, we've got two more to go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we've got Klaus. I've got a lot of midfielders. So Klaus would be in the middle.
I'm just going to play this one goal. This is my favourite ever Klaus Jensen goal.
Here's Stewart. Another nice ball. Here's Jensen. And it's coming back off him, and it's in! Weaver was off his line. It's a freak goal, but it's 4 for Charlton. Klaus Jensen. Well, he deserves to get on the score sheet for his industry and his work rate. No wonder he's smiling. He can't believe his luck. It cannoned back from the defender's clearance, and Weaver didn't have a prayer. Just a minute from time.
It's the only tackle we ever put in a Charlton shirt, isn't it? That, and it goes in the corner.
I can't believe they mentioned his work rate. That blows my mind. What was happening in that game?
I mean, they didn't say. He said industry. I think he was just trying to. Maybe he was just always trying to find the right player and didn't quite make it, but kept on getting on the ball. I mean, that goal at Highbury. I was there for that. I mean, like it's still just I can shut my eyes and go back to that day and how that felt. And he had it's a weird memory. He had fluorescent soles on the bottom of his boots one season.
You're right, that is
fluorescent yellow. And when he ran, he just had sort of these like little flashes that you could see of him just sort of running. But he had such a style in the way he ran. It was just weirdly garish for a player that had a sort of everything else about him was fairly sort of cultured and plain and not too adventurous. And he had these wonderfully weird fluorescent soles, like a Peter Jones with his socks on Dragon's Den, just sort of desperate to let a little bit of personality out, but without really wanting to commit to it. But you know, as a footballer, I mean, he was just a joy to watch, and his ability on the ball, finding a pass, and you know, the goal against Blackburn when Friedel scored the header. And the low feeling of that goal going in, thinking, oh, we're just going to be killed for being the team that conceded in the last minute to a header from a goalie to get the draw, and then he just pops up the other end and goes, "You're going to score against us. I'm going to chip you," from an audacious angle with absolutely no reason or the sort of common sense that it would ever be an opportunity that is going to go in the corner. But he just had that class about him, and he, I think, carried that side in terms of creativity for a long period of time. And without him,
in terms of creativity, he did things that you've never seen a Charlton player do before, and probably not again until Di Canio comes. I was brought up on Richard Rufus. John Robinson was my hero in terms of just fucking run and hard tackle. So when he came out and he's sort of strolling around, and he didn't look like in terms of like his stature, he was a bit squat, he was bald, he didn't look like this classy guy. But then some of the stuff he'd done, it's the best stuff that's ever been done in the Charlton shirt. So we paid £6 million for him as well. That seems amazing to me that we put that much money into a player. And unless I've read Transfer Market completely wrong, I think we sold him for we sold him for 1.9. We bought him for 6. That seems insane to me that we backed him that much. By the look on your face, I've got that completely wrong. I'm going to double check.
No, I was just thinking. I was trying to think if I'm right in some of my story in my thinking, but I know that Curbs at one stage he had a deal for one player and Ida Gudjohnsen.
Yes, yeah.
I can't remember who the other player is, whether that was Jensen as well as Ida Gudjohnsen, but the club said we can't afford to do both and you only got one. But seeing those two together in a Charlton shirt would have been sensational, because he would have snaffled up those chances, and he probably would have enjoyed playing little passes with Jensen as well. And that could have been, you know, again, moving it on. But as always, it's Charlton. The money, you know, we weren't the big money club. We weren't the big spenders. We did things sensibly, and that meant you had to cut your cloth at times. But yeah, Klaus, I mean, he's just one of those players that I think will never ever really get the credit from outside of Charlton and maybe even Fulham for quite how good he was as an operator on the football pitch. And yeah, he is one of those players. You can carry players. I'm okay with carrying a player if they're worth carrying. If for 90 minutes they're a constant threat, but they're not going to put a tackle in, that's okay, because they're dangerous in their own right, and they're always going to take a player out of the game. To always be watching. Even when the oppo got the ball, they're going to be like, well, someone's got to still mark him. So we lose the ball and he gets it, we're in trouble.
Well, that's like you said, Kinsella did that for him, didn't he? He was playing alongside him for the majority of the time. And I like that story that Parker came up to Curb and said, what do I need to get into the team? And he went, well, you're not getting in ahead of Jensen technically, so you're going to have to do more work than him. You can. Curb said it right. The balance was right there.
Yeah. I mean, that they were heady days, weren't they? But yeah, Klaus threading those balls through has got to be in there. And Di Canio's the other option in that 10 role, because he wouldn't have been ahead of either of my strikers. But he was the only other player that I think had that wizardry and that presence on the ball that could have maybe mixed it a little bit. But yeah, for me, because Pado was only there for a season, you know how I like players that have played a lot of games for Charlton. But Jensen, for me, for all those years, and he was just someone I just still now I look back and think they were great days just watching him just be a magician for 90 minutes.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. All right, so last midfielder across those three, who have you gone for?
Gone for Jerome Thomas, who will probably be quite a rogue choice for any Charlton fans.
What a choice it is. This is from Sky Sports News.
Charlton's 2-goal hero against West Ham missed the start of the campaign through injury, then found himself in and out of the side as managers came and went. Under Alan Pardew, Thomas has prospered, but he insists last week's goals must now be forgotten.
And this game's just as big, if not bigger. And basically, like you said, we need to concentrate on that now. I mean, we can't dwell on the West Ham game. And basically, you could use maths all day long to try and work out how many points we need to stay up. But the way I see it is we need to win every game, whether at home or away. The next games we're going into, we need to win. It's as simple as that.
Breaks my heart. He doesn't know what's coming. We just beat West Ham 4-0 and he scored 2 goals in that game. And then we go down. Sorry to bring it down a bit.
But there's what I say about my dad being a bit of a stato in his day. He had one that when we played a 5-man midfield with Romadal and Thomas both on the wings, we averaged over 2 points a game, and it was like 15, 16 games. It wasn't like short. It was like over a couple of seasons, I think. Thomas, I think, had this ability to just take pressure off a team. And let's be honest, I haven't got that many defenders. So I'm going to need someone to lump the ball sort of in the general direction of, and then him bring it down and earn a free kick and then get us up the pitch. And I just remember, I'd love to know the stats of how many free kicks Jerome Thomas won when we just punted it up and he was just on his own. He just somehow got a defender to kick him, fell over, got a free kick, took the pressure off and brought us up the pitch. And for that, his trickery, and I don't think he's a player that ever really reached his potential. But I think playing in this team with all of the footballers around him, and as I say, I think we got license in the team to carry a couple of bit more sort of pedestrian or workers in terms of wanting to work back. I think he would work quite nicely, and he'd get the space and time, because if you're putting 2 men on Jensen, you're definitely going to have one on Lookman. You're going to have to keep an eye on both Parker and Kinsella for long range shots. So he's going to get some space, isn't he, to operate in and whip those ball in.
He's going to score loads of goals in this team. Unfortunately, they're going to score double because there's no defenders. But other than
they won't score double. They've got George Costa. It's fine. He's got it under control. Don't you worry about it.
100%. We got him from 100k from Arsenal. And my overriding memory of Thomas, and I'm probably completely wrong on this, is that when he broke into the team, what he was amazing at was picking up the ball and beating his man and going round on the right hand side or the left hand side. And then towards the end of his career, he seemed to always want to cut in. I don't know if that's just, I just remember him doing that all the time, and I was like, why just beat your man and get it in the box? Because we had players like Di Canio playing with him. He's had some great strikers. I don't know.
He had injuries, didn't he? And whether he just, one of those injuries meant that he just lost a bit of confidence in his explosive pace, or whether, we were just where we were struggling a little bit. He'd lost the confidence to risk it all going down the side, because then if you get dispossessed, then they're away and you're getting in behind us. I don't know, but there certainly there's lots of games that you can think of where he got us out of trouble by just getting kicked. And he had that silky feet that enabled you to get up the pitch and create opportunities to get the ball across. And I know he had some other clubs that he went to which were pretty poor choices, but apart from that, I don't think you can necessarily fault him too much for his time at the club. And he balances, I think, Lookman quite well, who's looking to get in behind. He just operates in a slightly different way. So that should mean that we get a little bit of balance and game back in the team.
I like it. It's well structured, mate. Don't take any abuse for this. Right, you've got 2 strikers, and amazingly, only one of them has got into every team so far. Who do you want to go with first? Because both of these are incredible.
Well, I'm going to try and go for the one that hasn't got into every team so far, then, and say Darren Bent.
Oh, well, you'd be 100% wrong. Darren Bent.
Well, I don't know who hasn't got my other striker, but they need to be taken outside and shot.
I can't get him, but the guests have got to sort themselves out. I can't be creating the.
You need to. I'm going to have to watch and find out who it is, and where there are going to be words. There are going to be words, because that is just unacceptable.
Let's have a look at some goals from Darren Bent.
That's in. And forward for Bent, and he's on the side again. Could this be 2? Got stuck up behind him. I thought the chance had gone. He knew it hadn't. Another goal for Darren Bent, and Charlton's lead is double. What a start he has had to Premiership football. Onside clearly. Ledley King in the middle was playing him on. Oh, it was a beauty.
That right there, that midfield five.
Oh shit! Sorry.
And Bent up.
No, sorry. Go on. I thought I played it again.
No, that midfield five and Bent up front is the five that we're talking about in terms of the points on the board. Smertin, Kishev, Murphy, I know is someone that we all love. But that was a great. That start of that season was sensational.
We were going to take over the world with that team. I've never seen a player like Alexis Smertin before, and I think I would have him in my team because he was like a machine. He weighed about 9 stone, but he was built like a brick shithouse. Sorry, we're talking about Darren Bent.
Yeah, no, he was an honourable mention as well. He didn't quite make the team, but he probably would be on my bench as an all-rounder. But yeah, no, Bent. You haven't got my favourite goal there in that compilation, which is the one where he just absolutely destroys Melchiot for pace.
Oh yeah,
just in behind and put it in the top bin. And that goal, and it just because he wasn't a slow centre back either. Like that just highlighted how quick he was. It's absolutely lightning. And then he had his weird clock celebration he did for a while, where he sort of jumping and put his arms around, and it's like. But he.
Do you want to see the goal? I think I've got it here.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the Melchiot goal?
100%. I want to see it. Any time I can watch that goal, we will watch that goal.
The Ryderson has flipped it on, and Darren Bent is closing in on goal. Brilliant from Bent. Well, Charlton are enjoying that goal, but not half as much as Birmingham and West Brom are enjoying it.
What a cool game this is. We needed some magic, and he's come up. It's a Ryderson who's been staying up for the last couple of minutes, but once he gets it out of his feet, what a strike. The power, the accuracy, it's in the back of the net.
Cleared by Hughes. And Bent will chase, and he could get there ahead of Melchiot. It's Darren Bent! It's 2-0 Charlton! The points are theirs! And Darren Bent has got his...
That's the one. That's that goal. Sensational. So yeah, no, he's. I think he's our biggest fee, isn't he? That we sold on for, be our record fee out. So we sold him for more than Barcelona paid for Thierry Henry in the same window. So that tells you all we need to know about how good he was at that time and how highly rated he was. Just a quality striker. He scored goals, but he had that pacing behind him. Works perfectly alongside the player that is going to be next to him because he doesn't have that much pace. So we've got the option if we are penned in, we can hit it in behind, and he'll absolutely destroy everyone for pace and put it away. And then if we're on top, then we've got the poacher as well. So
I was on holiday when we signed him, and there was an Ipswich fan there, and it was Ipswich, wasn't it? Yeah. And I said, what do you reckon of Ben? He went, he's amazing. He's really quick, but he'll get caught offside a lot because he's always playing on the shoulder. What I didn't realise is like that Tottenham goal, that first one we saw, how much class he had and how much time he seemed to have on the ball. Like all great strikers, he never seemed really rushed. He always seemed to have a chance to pick out the right ball. He was either rapidly beating everyone like that Melchiot clip, or he just seemed to be able to take his time, sit back a bit and curl one in the corner. Complete total striker.
He wasn't a striker before he came to us, was he? He was a winger.
Yeah.
And his Curbs kept on watching him going, he's a striker. He's not a winger. And I see, I mean, I think he'd be a crap winger, to be honest. Because
same as Henry, though, like you said, great minds.
Yeah. And again, it's just one of those times to be a Charlton fan where you're just watching players and you knew, and like Alfie May now, people were worried when they see that name on the team sheet because they know that there's goals. And it's an absolute farce that he wasn't in that England setup a lot more than I
went into that on the last episode, and it makes me feel sick to think that Theo Walcott getting above him and like Bent had outscored every other English striker, and it seemed to all be building with Powell going and Young. It seemed like Charlton was starting to be able to be this club that actually produced players that played for England, and then it's disgusting that he didn't get in. I can't get over it.
Yeah, no, I can't get over it either. But there we go. So he didn't, and we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah. So your last player, not the last name on the team sheet by any means. Who have you gone for?
Clive Mendonca. I will take no further questions. That's it. I don't need to say any more.
This is a clip from the playoff final against Sunderland the second time around. And I don't think I've ever seen anything more emotional. But how shit were those suits? Right, I'll press play.
To be involved in probably one of the best games at Wembley in the playoffs was such a highlight. I scored quite a few hat-tricks in my career, but to get a hat-trick at Wembley, it's something you dream of.
Whose side are your family on today?
It's a bit off and off really, but everybody wants me to score. Like, you know, a lot of them have said, "I hope you score and you get beat," but I think we'll win.
Yeah, you know the story about the suits, don't you?
Go on.
That was at Mod. It was at the Mod Mag thing. And they had Peter Varney's. All up to Lakeside, I think, to get these suits measured, and everyone hated them. You know, Curbs was refusing to wear it. Even the players are going, we won't be seen dead in that. There's absolutely no way. None of us are wearing them. I think Varney threatened to fine them all if they didn't wear these suits that he'd gone and spent. But he found a good price, and when they didn't have any money, of course, didn't know you were going up. So he didn't know you were going to get the bumper payment, but he wanted them to all look good. So yeah, the suits were the worst bit about that day, and that is a fantastic thing. But yeah, that playoff final, you know, when we actually got off the train going to that, and there was a Sunderland fan who put his arm around, which we were doing Super Clive Mendonca, and he was trying to get me to do Super Kevin Phillips. And I remember being very angry about it. And then walking up, even in Wembley, had the sun beating through the glass as we were walking around, and turning around, just a sort of a cacophony of noise. It was like we were the last people to arrive in the stadium, which my dad's pretty bad with timing, so that probably made sense. And you're in there and just watching that game, and just not even at the end when the penalties are done. I didn't see them miss the penalty. Was it? Yeah, no, I didn't see them miss the penalty. I couldn't watch their penalty. I could watch ours, which is a weird way around. But yeah, I could watch ours, but I couldn't watch theirs.
And weirdly, you know, Sean Newton wasn't meant to take it. He'd never taken one before. I was quite confident when he went up. I was like, by that point, I kind of felt like we were going to win it. I don't know why. I was 8.
When I saw Sean Newton walking forward, I was like, well, here is the prophecy of disappointment that my dad promised me from 11 weeks old. But even when that penalty went in, just to sort of give you a bit of a feeling for just how supportive and loving my dad is, he turned to his right and celebrated with a West Ham fan who had come with him.
Oh wow!
And left me on my own, so I had to turn left and celebrate with a random stranger. So he left a 9-year-old, 10-year-old boy celebrating with a stranger while he celebrated with a West Ham fan.
Come on, Joe, you've had it since you were 11 weeks. This is this guy's first time. Do you know what I mean?
I will never forgive him for that. I will never forgive him for choosing someone else in that moment. And my brother-in-law came with us to Wembley the second time round. I warned him. I said, if we score a goal and you celebrate with him instead of me, I'm disowning you. That is it. I'm not having it. But you know, Mendonca, it's an absolute shame that he didn't get to play the games that he should have played in the Prem. Yeah. He really is. He is a striker that I think would be able to play now in the modern game without too much of an adjustment. Because although he's not the most physical, he'll drop off, he'll find spaces, and he's just got like composure in front of goal. It's like time moves in a different speed for him. And he's seeing everything sort of half a second slower than everybody else, and just got all that time and just unreal.
So that's my question about Mendonca is, you know, they did the whole thing about him working in the Nissan plant, and he hasn't been involved with football really since he left. Do you think that's why? Do you think someone who's that gifted and that talented, an absolute goal machine, just can't coach? Because things that are natural to him, it's really difficult to tell someone how to do that, because it's the same. I don't know if that's why Lineker never went into it, but similar sort of player in it, just complete natural goal scorer. Whereas, you know, I don't know much about Brian Clough or Alex Ferguson, the way they played football, other than that they read in their books and stuff. But it sounded like they were more workhorses, and they batter the defence rather than have this natural ability. I always wonder if that's why he couldn't coach or didn't go into coaching.
Oh, I think some people. I mean, also his career ended early, so but it ended.
Did for Mickey Apples as well.
Yeah, but when your career ends when you're really young, and then like you're like, oh, hang on, I need to do something with my life, and I'm not ready to really leave football. But like when it depends on your mental sort of strength, I think, in terms of, I'm not saying he's not mentally strong, but are you mentally capable of switching off the desire to play to coach? I played rugby for years, and I couldn't go when I was injured because I would end up on the pitch and I'd do myself another injury. I just could not watch my mates out there and not be on the pitch. So if he's like that, if he's got that part of him, then it's going to be a long road, and it's a really, really difficult road. And if you've got something that you're passionate about, and it pays the bills, and you're comfortable and you're happy, then go and do that. Go and do what your passion is. And not everyone's passion, even for sensational football, is football.
Yeah.
There's a couple of centre backs, aren't there, in the Premier that don't. Ben White doesn't watch football.
Yeah.
So it could also be a number of different reasons. But what we did have when we had him was just a class. And I remember just growing up watching him, and just you didn't realise at the time just what an asset you had.
Great.
And I think it's a real crying shame that he didn't get to go to the heights that he really could have gone on to. But he'll always be remembered for that hat trick, and his name is as ingrained in Charlton's history as any other player could claim to be, I think. So great.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see a statue like that. Do you know the story of the guns?
Although I'm not a massive fan of statues. I really like pictures though. I like. There's a picture of him doing that, I think.
Yeah,
outside the valley,
and
I think that is better than any. The statue will be a poor representation of that image, and that will be burned on the back of my eyelids probably until I'm old, grey, and can't remember anything. I'll probably still be able to remember that celebration. But yeah, great. I didn't realise it was after the penalty for years. I thought it was like after one of the goals. It's only when I really sat down and watched it back, I was like,
yeah.
Well, you don't celebrate pens, really, do you, in the shootout?
No, not in the shootout. The story, for anyone that doesn't know, is that apparently this trialist turned up, and he was sort of Billy Big Bollocks, and he scored a goal and did that, and everyone thought he was a bit of a wanker for doing it. Apparently, that's the story. This is your team, Joe. Let's have a look at it. Here we go. Coming up. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, narrow is a word that you could use to describe it.
Look, you got Lookman and Thomas who've got a little bit about
they
them.
do get out. You're right. Thomas was more of a winger than anything else.
I'd have Thomas on the left and Lookman on the right, personally, just because they're natural sides. But Thomas will hug that touchline. Lookman will cut in. There's a bit of width there. But yeah, no, I'm pretty comfortable with that as a team. I think there's enough there to hold out most teams. And look, Parker and Kinsella, either of them would drop in right back, left back. Yeah, it'd be fine. Don't worry about it. We're not going to concede any. We got.
I mean, to be fair, there's been some teams where you've gone, there's no chance. Powell and Young are getting up enough to do it. I think you've got more chance with Kinsella and Parker being able to go out right and left than those two would do. And it is a really attacking team, but nothing's getting through that defence, is it?
Well, you're gonna have to sit in, aren't you? Because you can't press us too high up because you've got Bent in behind. You can't sit off too deep because you've got the fox in a box with Mendonca.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's enough problems there for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think it's a good looking team. What I'm planning on doing is a vote at the end to see after 10 episodes to see who everyone goes for. I mean, it's got a good shout considering there's no Powell. There's no Luke Young. There's no Di Canio. You've got Thomas in there, who's a bit of a rogue choice. You've got the other one, Lookman, hasn't appeared for anyone else, and Pope hasn't. On paper, that's a great team.
Yeah, as I say, and my idea was to build a team that would be good on paper. Absolutely no comment about how it will be on grass, and that's that. But yeah, that's where we are.
And,
Do you want the honourable bench mentions quickly?
Oh, of course, yeah. Get your excuses in now. The ones that you should have done.
So we'll have Stevie Brown will be on the bench, but I'm actually going to have him on the bench. I'm actually going to have him on the bench 6 times because I know it was a real bone of contention for him that most of his fee was was for appearances, but he still got it on the bench. So I'll have him on there 6 times, so he gets 6 appearance fees, and he can play in any position. He can play in goal. Centre back, if we need to switch a back 4, I can play him right and left back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
If we need a holding midfielder,
in the last couple of minutes, if we need a bit of height up there,
yeah, it'll be all right up there. It'll be fine. So I think we'll have him on the bench 6 times, and that's it. Really, I don't need anyone else.
That's solid. It's a solid shout. Yeah, 100%. Joe, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Tell us about the pub and where we can go and what you're doing at the moment.
Well, I mean, the River Ale House, it's a micro pub in Greenwich. Been going about 6 years now. It's got 6 Pub of the Year awards for its sort of trials and tribulations so far. Rick Carscale and proper cider. So if you're looking for a pint of Carling or a pint of Foster's or a Stella, we're not your establishment. But if you want an interesting pale ale or a stout or a slightly different bitter, then we're your pub. And we're about 20 minutes walk from the ground, and lots of Charlton fans in. Stevie Brown has actually popped in for a pint now after me harassing him a number of times on Twitter for the fact that he keeps choosing the Oak, and there's better beer available elsewhere. So, but yeah, no, it's me, my dad, my little sister, family owned. We're in there before we run to the game, watch the game, run back at full time to get there for the post match rush. But yeah, it's a good little community. So yeah, if anyone fancies a pint, then you know where we are. Well, you don't. We're on Woolwich Road. Now you know where we are.
Love it, mate. And you sponsor the Charlton Live podcast as well.
Yeah, so. Yeah. You remind me actually. I think I still haven't paid that invoice. So I'll get onto that. Sorry, Louis. No, yeah, we sponsor. We did a little bit with Mod Mag last year. We're doing a little bit with Charlton Live this year. Just at the end of the day, we're a fans pub, and trying to sort of support things that help fans stay connected with the club, whether they're local or not. I think is a great way to try and pass on some of the Charlton indoctrination that I got for free as a young boy, and being part of Charlton Live is a load of fun. Gets to talk absolute, but don't just get to do it with a pint at the pub. I get to do it when I'm sober as well. So that's a delight for everyone, I'm sure.
How those lads actually get themselves up to do it after some of those games. But I guess it's also a chance to get it all out as well, isn't it? It's got to be quite cathartic by the end of it. I listen to it, addicted, have been for the last few years, and I need it. I need someone else to say, yeah, that was a bag of shit, just so I can go, that's it. I can release it now.
It's weird, isn't it? When you get pumped, actually, there's a bit of you that's a bit excited because you get to rant and go mad. And when we absolutely smash someone and you get to eulogize about how brilliant we are, it's the 1-1 draw when there's been 2 shots. They're the difficult games. So you're just scratching around going, what are we going to talk about today? They're the ones that no one's chomping at or jumping at the bit for. So, but I have a lot of respect for all the people that tune in live on a Sunday morning when we've been absolutely pumped and think, you know what I need? I need to be depressed again.
Yeah. Not calling on you too quick. Just get it all out there.
They're the ones that get the most listens. They're the ones that get the most listens sometimes. Just ones that get absolutely thumped and people who just want to tune in and just be like, yeah, no, it was as bad. It was as bad as I remember. I mean,
for me, like just having, I discovered it during lockdown, the same way I discovered Charlton TV, and I haven't had that connection with a club where I felt like I could talk about it. And actually, there was some analysis since the Premier League days, and we were doing Match of the Day because there's nowhere to watch like EFL football, and there's nowhere that they really analyze it. You might get 30 seconds on the EFL show. So Charlton Live, Charlton TV, they're the real sort of places I love to go to just think, Yeah, it is a bag of shit, but it's my bag of shit. Joe, you've been great. Anything else you need to? Anything else you can plug or want to give a shout out or anything like that?
No, not at all. There's nothing else. Nothing else to plug. The only thing I'll say is make sure you get them indoctrinated nice and early, because that's what it's been for me. And 34 this year, 30th season ticket in. And then if the club are listening, if you want to start doing rewards for people that have had 30 season tickets, then you kind of need to get a move on, because otherwise I have to wait for my 40th season ticket. That's another 10 years away. So any loyalty programs for 30 years, then get that in quick.
I think you got more chance with getting the minus 22 weeks or whatever it is for your little one. For the scan, I reckon that's got to be up there. He should have a seat for life, surely.
Well, I mean that'd be cheaper. So I'm happy. I'm happy with that. Either way.
Nice one. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Sam.